Welcome back to the third installment of Job Searching. And this will be the final one because I got a job, so stick around and you'll hear about that. Just to keep you guys updated with the whole frustrating process of searching for a job, I had one final encounter with Oakwood. Now, if you haven't watched Job Searching and Job Searching 2, watch those first. It's a continuing saga. You'll see what I mean, and you'll see why it's so frustrating. But I wanted to let you know that I was contacted by Oakwood again. All right? And it was from Rose, who was my old district manager from almost 2 years ago now. And I had never actually met her, but she was apparently really impressed by my reviews. So she calls me completely out of the blue. And she's like, hey, I just want to let you know if you're still looking for a job. Now, keep in mind, they've never replied to any. I've contacted all these regionals. I've had interviews with Oakwood, and then they just avoid me. They never respond to my phone calls or emails. And then she's like, oh, hey, by the way, I know I haven't talked to you in 2 years, but apparently I know that you're applying with our company, and we have a property manager position that I would like to offer you. No interview, nothing. Just like, hey, out of the blue, here's a job. And that should be a miracle, except for one thing. It is in Circleville. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with Columbus or Ohio, it's about due south of Columbus, but it's like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, something like that. I don't think I've ever even been there. I don't have a car. I can't do that. So I call her back. Of course, she doesn't answer. I leave her a voicemail and I say, hey, here's the thing. I was like, I was going to turn it down because I don't have a car, but I thought more about it and I thought, well, you know what? You get me an offer letter, I'll take that offer letter and I'll go get a car financed. And I was like, yeah, so I'll take it. Guess freaking what? I never hear anything more from her. I do not know what is wrong with this company and how they are so dysfunctional in their hiring practices. But yeah, that's Oakwood. With that being said, guys, I did have one more set of interviews. And I'm thinking of one other set, and I'm hoping I'm not leaving it out. I'm hoping I told you guys about the one where I had to travel all over the place and then never heard from them to like 3 different interview sites. But anyway, I did finally have a set of interviews that was over the last couple weeks. I had a good feeling about it, but I was also not getting my hopes up whatsoever because of the track record of how my interviews go. So I can tell you right now that I got a job, and I'm going to make a separate video about that. But before I get to that, let me tell you one other thing about Oakwood. So you guys know how a while ago I did that interview for the View at Polaris? It was either a property manager at Monroe House across the street from it, or the View at Polaris, assistant manager. They were both in this. They were both at up in the Polaris area, far north Columbus. And this goes back to like the last week I had my car before it blew up. That's how far back this goes that I interviewed for those. So over 2 months ago. Well, just last week, around the same time that Rose got a hold of me about that place in Circleville, I was contacted through Facebook by a girl who I'd talked to before. Now, before, this girl worked at a place called Monarch Investments, and I have had nothing but bad luck with this company. They're very hostile and condescending toward their candidates. And I actually refused to come into an interview a couple years ago with them because their regional was so mean over email. I mean, it was like completely unreasonable. And I'm like, no, like I'm not gonna work for you. And but she didn't really care about that. The thing she took issue with was she wouldn't tell me where the job was located. And she's like, oh, and she's like, okay, well, your interview's at this site at this time. And I was like, okay, well, is that the site that I'm going to be working at? And she's like, maybe. I mean, you'll find out. And I'm like, no, I won't. No. Part of me evaluating whether I want this job is where this place is located. And so that interview didn't happen. So over the last probably summer, I had conversed with this other girl, the girl that contacted me, uh, over Facebook, and she had worked for Monarch. And she said, "Hey, I know you're looking for a job. We have a leasing consultant position open." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome." I was like, "The only thing is, I am looking to make more money. That's a part of why I'm leaving, and I need to know like approximately what you guys pay for that position." And she's like, "Oh, well, we pay like $12 an hour." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, no, you don't." Um, and and I emailed her back. I was like, "Look, I make 15 right now, plus bonuses and commission. I'd lose my housing discount. I'd have to start commuting to work. I'm like, you have to pay me an absolute minimum of $18 an hour to even for me to break even." And she's like, "Well, that's not going to happen. We pay our assistants like 13 or something." I'm like, who pays their assistant property manager $13 an hour? Like in Columbus, the going rate is a minimum of 17.50. So anyway, no, of course I didn't work there. It pissed her off that I wouldn't work for that little. And so here a few months later, she contacts me over Facebook. Now, this person who works for this really crappy company has been picked up by Oakwood, and she is now the property manager at the View at Polaris, okay? Which was the place that I was supposed to be the assistant property manager, right? So she tells me that they're hiring for a leasing consultant there. And I said, "Well, that's funny because I interviewed for the position of assistant property manager there." And she's like, "Oh, like with Cindy?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah." And I told her the whole story. I told her, Cindy was calling me and texting me and all this stuff. And like, it was like all locked up. I had the job. And then suddenly, Cindy would no longer contact me. She would not respond to any communications. And I even told the girl, I was like, "Look, I'm just really frustrated and I found it very unprofessional." And she's like, "Oh, well, it's probably because they changed the position from a an assistant manager position to a leasing consultant position." And I replied, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I can see them doing that." But I also emailed Cindy soon after and said, "Hey, you know, I would work there as a leasing consultant. I just needed a job." So there's really no excuse in this. Like, this woman is just being so incredibly unprofessional. Like, if you're not going to hire me, don't make it out like you're going to hire me, and then make me wait it out. And if somebody follows up with you multiple times because you told them that they have a job, probably respond to them. Even if it is just the case of you're like, "Oh, sorry, we decided to put it onto a lower position and we can't pay you what you want for that position." That at least I would understand. But otherwise, just no. It's so completely unprofessional to do it the way that they're doing it. So anyway, after that, I said, I told this girl, I was like, "Cindy was just so unprofessional. And I really don't appreciate." And I didn't say it in a nasty way, but I was like, "I really don't appreciate, the way I was treated." And I said, "So, that being the case, I mean, you seem all gung ho on hiring me. Can you just hire me yourself?" I don't know how the hiring process goes there. I don't know if they make the decision or the regional does. And she wouldn't respond to me. And so I sent her a message the next day, and I was like, "Hey, I'm just following up. Like, what's going on?" Still no response. Guys, I can't. I can't with these companies. When I have a company, it absolutely will be different. We're not doing this bullshit. And the other thing is, too, I had someone in, I think it was Job Searching 2 in the comments. He has a business. And he, of course, took the side of the employer and was like, "Oh, no, no, everything you're saying is wrong." And I argued with him about it. And he tried to make it out like, "Oh, you're a millennial and you won't work." Well, no. And I said, "How about instead of coming on here and trolling me, you actually offer me a job?" And he's like, "You want to work hard? I'll give you a job." And I said, "Absolutely." And you should have seen how fast he did a 180 once I said that I would come work for him laying concrete. Because the people that like to troll on here are just that. They're just trolls. You know, they want to come on here and say that I'm lazy and I won't work 60 hours, which is what he was saying. When I couldn't get a job in the first place to even work 1 hour. But they want to come on here and say all these nasty things. But when you take them up on what they're criticizing you for, they disappear. Okay, but I will say that I had an experience, not as a job seeker, but as a potential employer, I guess you'd call it that. Basically what happened is I had somebody go mow the grass at my mom's house. I didn't really believe they did it, and I needed somebody to go take some pictures to see if the grass was mowed because I couldn't get down there. I will say that I kind of understand to a certain point the frustration that people have trying to find someone for work, because 99% of the people that responded to my ad were complete idiots. I put how much the job paid, I put where it was located. People kept asking me those questions. I specifically stated that you needed to be licensed and insured. No, people would just say, I'm not licensed and insured, but I'm like, no, that's the requirement. There's a reason that requirement's there. I never did get it done. I literally had to text my cousin, who got a hold of a guy from her church who's like 100 years old, who drove up there and took the pictures. All right, that's how I finally got it done. I never did pay anyone. I was offering to pay people to go take a picture of a house, and everyone just wanted to bitch and moan and is like, oh, well, that's not enough to cover my gas. I was like, but you live 50 miles away. I'm not paying for you to commute to the job site. Like, I'll just find somebody who's local. I swear, guys. I I see it from both sides, but I definitely believe that when you look at the two sides, there is a difference, and the reason that it is not the job seeker who is at fault is because they're not the ones who are supposed to be professionals. They're not the ones who have training on hiring, right? It's the people who are running the ads and doing the interviews. Those are the people who are supposed to do it the right way. So maybe a job seeker sends you a nasty first message, or maybe they don't send you a resume, or who knows, whatever weird stuff they do. But they're under no obligation to do it right. I mean, they're not going to get the job if they don't do it right, but they're not under any obligation. But the people that work at these jobs, they are. So they are the ones in the wrong when they don't respond, or are nasty, or don't follow up, or lead you on, or whatever it is. So with that being said, guys, I am going to make a separate video, literally going to turn the camera off, turn it right back on, make a separate video about my new job. I can't give you guys a lot of details yet, but I do want to describe it to you and let you know what exactly is going on. So I'll have this video up today. I might have that one up today as well. It might be Monday or Tuesday. So make sure you subscribe. That way you get a notification when it comes in. And I suppose we will now start seeing some progress in my end of the month budget reviews now that I have a job again. That's at least a little bit of stability. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.